cable TV news networks, or national newspapers and magazines. The antidote is the Young Turks. Unlike mainstream corporate outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, the defense contractors, the Wall Street, or the big pharma, and we don't carry water for the Republican or Democratic parties. So watch us Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and join the thousands of progressives around the globe who tune in every day for TYT's unmatched, award-winning content and see what it's like to experience a news organization that only answers to you.
We're back on Indisputable, and we've got some interesting news about Chuck Schumer. New York Senator Chuck Schumer was caught on a hot mic while speaking with President Biden, expressing concerns about Herschel Walker's Senate bid in Georgia. Let's watch.
Yes. That seat, we're in danger of that seat. Taking it back. Well, it looks like the debate didn't hurt us too much in Pennsylvania as of today, so that's good. And basically we're picking up steam in the back. Yeah. Right. Didn't go out. We did a phone call, The state voter, we'll see if it's reversed. The state voter down now. It's hard to.
All right, so it's a little hard to hear in that video, but what's said is it looks like the debate didn't hurt us too much in Pennsylvania as of today, so that's good. Schumer saying these things. We're picking up steam in Nevada, and the state we're going downhill is Georgia. It's hard to believe they will go for Herschel Walker. And he's correct, because recent polling shows in Georgia that the Senate race is pretty much neck and neck. So you can see, we've got about 39% for Raphael Warnock, people definitely voting, 33% for Herschel Walker, 46% definitely not for Herschel Walker, 40% definitely not for Raphael Warnock, about 11% maybe for Herschel, 10% maybe for Warnock. So this is a close race, and it can go either way. And this is what happens when you don't deliver on policy. Raphael Warnock ran on giving people $2,000 checks. And I think we all remember how that went when we had Democrats win the majority in the Senate. It ended up being a fight to get those $2,000 checks, and people were shorted on those checks. So polls show that economic concerns remain top of mind for voters who on this issue tend to distrust the Democratic Party, which has held the White House and Congress as inflation has spiked. The share of likely voters who say economic issues are the most important concerns facing America stands at 44%, which is a jump from 36% who said so in July, according to a New York Times Siena poll released last week. So if Democrats want to get their act together and want to win in these races and win in Georgia, they've got to center issues that matter most to working people in this country. Ravana?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, huge mistake by Senator Schumer. You shouldn't be discussing, your internal polling when there's a potential that it could be picked up by the media, because that's just going to be used against you. But it definitely, it comes down to the fact that they haven't delivered on their promises. There were promises made, not kept. I was hoping that we'd maybe have a very late October surprise today from Joe Biden to help them get a boost in the last days moving towards the midterms. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen, but they really haven't delivered. And that it seems shocking that people are going to vote for Herschel Walker, who pulled out a fake police badge on the debate stage. But it's possible, and he might win that election. It'd be terrible for America and the American people if he does. But I'm gonna, keep my fingers crossed that Raphael Warnock comes out on top in that one. I will say I'm happy to hear that Chuck Schumer said that they haven't, taken a hit in Pennsylvania post-debate, despite what every single, deeply entrenched in DC media figure wants you to believe happened. And Nevada has been concerning too. So for him to say that they're going up there is good as well. But really, if they wanted to, have an easy time in these midterms, if they wanted to coast to, a continued control of the Senate and the House, they should have delivered for the American people. They failed to do it. And now they are having to play catch up in these final days.
Yeah, so well said, Rayvana. Rayvana, where can people find your work if they want to watch more of your stuff?
Yeah, so you can see me every Thursday here on TYT's Twitch channel at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. Eastern time. You can also follow me on Twitter at RayvanaTTV, and you can see my videos every Friday on Rebel HQ on Facebook and YouTube.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today and breaking down the news. Lots of chaotic things happening within the Democratic Party and more broadly in this country. We've got midterms coming up and we have special election coverage on November 8th. Make sure you tune into that. I'll be there. I'll see you all next week and we'll see you all tomorrow, 11:30 Pacific time. So we'll see you there. Make sure you tune into Ben Carollo's Galaxy Brain at 4 p.m. right after this on Twitch. Thanks for being with us today. We'll see you next time.
Hello, welcome back to Unbossed. We got a great show in store for you today. We're going to show that neoliberals are acting up as they often do. And a coach was pushing Christian-only prayer. And later in the show, we have an interview with the one and only Gary Chambers. He is going to talk to us about his Senate run in the great state of Louisiana. And my amazing co-host today is none other than Ben Carollo, and she is a Rebel HQ contributor. Hello, Ben. How are you?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm so good. I'm so happy to have you here with us today.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So we're going to start off today, Ben, by talking about the horrible attack on Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi's husband, and he was violently attacked last night at their home in San Francisco. And violence is never okay, despite political disagreements. It is wrong to violently attack anyone. None of us have a right to do that. And Paul Pelosi is the husband of Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, and he was taken to the hospital earlier this morning because of that attack. And he was attacked by an individual that entered the couple's home, unfortunately. So Paul Pelosi was reportedly attacked by his assailant with a hammer. The attack was not random, and the attacker specifically targeted the Pelosi family home. Paul suffered blunt force trauma to the head and body in the attack. He is being treated in the hospital for bruising, severe swelling, and other injuries. Now that individual has been arrested and has been charged with attempted homicide, among other charges. What happened when he entered the home is quite chilling. Let's put up this tweet from Christian Wilson. The assailant who attacked Paul Pelosi was in search of the speaker, according to a source briefed on the attack. The intruder confronted the speaker's husband in their San Francisco home, shouting, "Where is Nancy? Where is Nancy?" The source identified the suspect as David D. Pape. The home is meant to, anybody's home is meant to be a safe space. It's where all of us should be able to take our refuge and not have to fear some intruder coming into our home, enacting violence. This is exactly what happened to the Pelosi family, and it is wrong. Let's put up this other headline. US faces new era of political violence as threats against lawmakers are, it's on the rise. Members of the House will now get up to $10,000 to upgrade their home security as experts warn such threats endanger the health of US democracy. What in the unholy hell? Really makes no sense. So again, this should be yet another reminder to us that we all have an obligation in this country, one to another, and nobody deserves to be attacked in the way that Paul Pelosi was attacked in his own home. Ben?
Yeah, I mean, and this is really, I think the most frustrating part about this is that this is part of a long-term campaign that the political right in the United States has been engaging in for the past, I mean, really since the beginning of the history of the United States. There's always been right-wing terrorism, especially, obviously towards black and brown folks across the country throughout history. But it's been escalating in recent years. And the unfortunate reality is that Republicans have got political victories this way, right? Fundamentally, the reason why Roe v. Wade was overturned was because when the political right used terrorism against, abortion providers and any of their advocates, well, the Democrats responded by not talking about it. And now, unfortunately, the reality is that when this happens to Nancy Pelosi, which is incredibly tragic and deeply, deeply terrifying, the response that we've seen so far to things like this has been to bolster the security personally among Democratic officials, while ignoring the security of everybody else. I mean, quite literally, the Democratic Party was actively funding more extreme Republicans because they thought it would be a winning strategy, and it turns out that's not working. So the reality is the Democrats, to a certain degree, have allowed this to happen. And fundamentally, as long as federal agencies continue to ignore the death threats that people see online, then we will live in a culture where people think threats to people's lives are just normal like this.
Ben, that is such a great point, especially your point about how Democrats funded extremist Republicans. Very true. And again, what happened to the speaker's husband is unfortunate. We are not going to mince words when it comes to that. Your point about the fact that this is getting worse, it actually is. Some people think that it is okay to do this. You know what? We'll be right back. And we are back. Our apologies. We had a technical difficulty, but we're right back, and we want to continue this conversation. So, Ben, you are absolutely right about in terms of what some people are perfectly okay with this type of violence, which is really a truly sad commentary on our nation. We're going to put up a graph that shows that people who feel that violence is justified in advancing their political goals. And this is in the United States from 2017 to 2020. You also made another point, Ben, that I almost jumped out of my seat about, which is this country was founded on violence, obviously. And it should come to no surprise that in the 21st century, some of those same tactics are being used. Unfortunately, it's very unfortunate, and it is very wrong. America, we got to get it together, baby. This is the 21st century. And this kind of stuff should not only should it not be happening, it should not be acceptable. I mean, a large segment of people in this country think it is just okay to use violence to advance their political means. And I am here to tell you that it is not okay to use violence to advance your political ideas, and especially invading somebody's home. So thoughts and prayers are with the Pelosi family, and I hope that Paul Pelosi has a speedy recovery. Oh, coach who leads prayer. Now I'm a praying woman, really. I come from a praying background, a Black liberation theology tradition. I get it. But some folks think that the only prayer that is the right kind of prayer is the Christian prayer. So religious freedom is certainly religious freedom, but that should be religious freedom for all folks to have religious freedom, not just folks who believe one way. And that one way is Christianity. So this starts with a high school football coach in Birmingham, Washington, and the coach's insistence on praying on the football field after games. It cost him his spot on the sidelines and resulted in a Supreme Court victory on religious freedom grounds. Now Joseph Kennedy will return to that position that he lost in 2015. The United States Supreme Court ruled in Kennedy's favor in June, saying the school district had gone too far in pursuing its goal of eliminating any perception that it was endorsing a religion. The decision overruled a lower court that had held that the school was indeed justified in telling the coach to stop praying with players on the field. Kennedy, no surprise, became a rallying cry for the right wing. Kennedy quickly became an example of what right-wing conservatives said was an assault on religious freedoms in America. Months after he was placed on paid leave for refusing to stop praying at games, Kennedy appeared at a rally for Senator Ted Cruz, who was then hoping to be the Republican presidential nominee. Cruz asked this question: what kind of country have we become when kneeling in prayer is treated as an act of civil disobedience? Senator? Yeah, that is very much a good question. The Supreme Court sided with Kennedy that it is within his rights to pray. However, I remember when that same base did not have this same attaboy when it came to football player Colin Kaepernick. Let's play this.
The College of Ozarks is dropping Nike from all athletic uniforms. This in response to the company's decision to make Colin Kaepernick the face of its Just Do It ad campaign. The Missouri school's president joined us earlier to explain his decision.
We have a patriotic goal, and we feel like that it's our duty to uphold that goal, and it's based on civic responsibility and a love of America and a willing to defend it.
Or this.
We have a chance to either serve or complain. We can demand or command. We command by getting out there and doing the heavy lifting. This guy Kaepernick has not done a thing but complain, and now he's being quiet, and that's supposed to be a badge of honor now. No, you stand up and you articulate yourself, you explain what you're all about, and defend yourself. You don't sit there quietly behind the curtains, let everybody else do the heavy lifting for you.
Very much seems like a one-sided proposition when it came to Colin, no doubt about it. But beyond Colin, it shows just what the religious freedom means to some of these people on the right. We got a headline to share with you: how the right is bringing Christian prayer back into public schools. Conservative judges and lawmakers have recast religious neutrality as an anti-Christian bigotry, or use a religion as a mask to insert themselves into the lives of women and their reproductive choices. They have no problem whatsoever doing that. In Florida, a ban on abortions after 15 weeks was blocked on June the 30th before being reinstated 5 days later. But in the lawsuit, the decision once again came into focus by contesting the Florida abortion law violates religious liberty by criminalizing abortion, which is permitted in Jewish law. So not to mention the homophobia of these right wingers and their use of religion in a very wrong and vile way. It means that they are willing, ready, and able to push and stand for regressive policies that really take away people's choice. And I will tell you, as someone who does subscribe to the Christian tradition, the Black liberation theology point of it, I remember the point that God gives people choice. But these folks seem to want to take away all the choices in this country unless those choices line up with their beliefs. Let's check out this quote from Lori Lefkovich, director of the Jewish Studies program at Northeastern. And this is what it said: I think they believe their God is the God of the Constitution. And Lori, I could not agree with you more. Ben, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and I think it's really, really on point that you connected this to Colin Kaepernick, because the reality is white evangelicism is a very unique type of Christianity. It's quite literally something that was created in think tanks in the 1950s by marketing departments and didn't get popular until like the 60s and 70s. Now, why all of a sudden did it get magically super popular? Well, that's because quite literally, it was white supremacist response to the civil rights movement. They wanted to use religious liberty as an excuse to be discriminatory. And so the hypocrisy that normal people would see between this person saying that he should be able to, lead group prayers at publicly funded events and things like this, compared to Colin Kaepernick, who literally just took a knee, right? That hypocrisy is much like most Republican hypocrisy, is perfectly consistent white supremacy. They think that they have all the right in the world to make and create environments that are hostile towards people that are not the same skin color or religious beliefs that they are. And fundamentally, that is what this is about.
Indeed, absolutely what this is about. And it just amazes me. And they don't see the hypocrisy, at all. They really do believe that what they're doing is okay. And it reminds me a lot of the doctrine of manifest destiny, in this country, the whole notion that this nation above all. And that is what these right wingers are injecting into every part of the discussion, and especially politically. And the evangelicals certainly have a hold on the right in a way. They are using religion as a blunt force object, as far as I am concerned. And those of us who do believe in choice, and that is life choices all the way across the board, do believe that people should be able to express themselves in ways, especially religiously. It doesn't have to all be about Christianity. We should not accept what the religious right is doing right now, because they are doing a disservice. What would Jesus do? I'm glad you asked. He would not do any of what the religious right is doing. That is for sure. He would be on the other side. And speaking of other side, we'll be back on the other side.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was a white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it though.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
Welcome back. On to my favorite, and I mean my absolutely favorite part of the show, viewer comments. We have TYT members. Connor says, Nina always leaves me feeling so optimistic and ready to fight on what's a great way, and what a great way to start off the weekend. Thank you, Connor, so much, so sweet. And on Twitch, McBain says, I'd say the health of US democracy is already so low that it's in a hospital and the bill will be high. Yep, McBain, that about sums it up. But we can do something about that. We can restore the patient. I'm banking on that. We gotta do that. Also, do not forget, remember Brittany Griner. Her and her family are still going through it. We're keeping up with this story. We know that earlier this week we reported what the Russian court said. They did not accept her appeal at all. So she's still looking at those 9 years, but there are people pushing and fighting, and we want the United States government to continue to do the same. Meanwhile, all of us can play a role in being supportive of the Griner family. And if you do that on social media, please hashtag #WeAreBG. That's hashtag #WeAreBG. And our Jackson, Mississippi sisters and brothers and family and friends are still in need of clean water. And you can join us here at TYT as we do our part to be helpful in this moment of crisis. You can go to tyt.com/relief. That is tyt.com/relief. Thank you all so much for your support, and many thanks to all of our viewers for your wonderful comments. WTF neoliberals, hot mic. Oh yeah, who does not love a hot mic? So we got this moment, and this moment is coming from none other than Senator Chuck Schumer when he was having a conversation with the president.
We will now kneel.
Miss Cinema, no.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
They will see it because it's hard to believe, but they will go for it.
Now, just in case you had a little trouble hearing that because it was a bit low, I am going to read to you what the dear senator said to the president. The state where we're going downhill is Georgia. It's hard to believe that they will go for Herschel Walker. That is what Senator Chuck Schumer said to President Biden. It's hard to believe that they will go for Walker. What's hard to believe is that the Democrats really didn't do a whole lot in this case. We should have been talking more about the economy, the state of the economy and the suffering that people have and how our party is going to work to ameliorate that suffering. So I don't know if they're trying to keep up with appearances. However, we do have a problem. So according to an aggregate polling average compiled by the website 538, Georgia's incumbent Democratic Senator Ralph Warnock currently holds a slight 1.7% lead over Walker, the Republican nominee. Now, naturally, Schumer tried to play this off by saying, but our early turnout in Georgia is huge, huge. That's great, but you still have to finish the race. And President Joe Biden also tried to play this off on the hot mic by saying, Barack's heading down there tomorrow. I know they believe that the President Barack Obama is magic. I know they do, and that he's gonna be able to turn all this around in a matter of less than 2 weeks. I know they do believe that. Biden's referencing President Obama stumping for Senator Warnock and Stacey Abrams, that the former president is coming there. You know, Ben, I'm old enough to remember how neoliberal Democrats worked so hard to destroy progressives as we ran for office, but they didn't have that same smoke for Republicans. And here we are in Georgia.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you see, like when Joe Biden got elected, you saw a lot of people talk about how he was gonna be the next FDR. But I feel like everybody forgot how FDR treated the midterms. During the midterms, during FDR's administration, we gotta remember this is a guy that won presidency 4 times in a row. He actively campaigned by, I know this is gonna be controversial, attacking Democrats who were not supportive enough of the New Deal and the progressive reforms that he was pushing. His strategy was to go after anybody that was not strong enough in support of his policies, to get people riled up and to get people excited for his policies. Because even though it took him a long time to get some of those policies passed, fundamentally, what people saw was a fighter, and they had somebody actually sit down and explain to them, these are the people that are standing in the way of change. These are the businesses and what they're doing in response to my policies. Going and sitting down and saying, hey, look, I know it seems like the recovery isn't going that well, but that's because these giant corporations are artificially inflating the economy to the point where they're trying to slow down these New Deal policies. It's these giant corporations doing this. And you see these Democrats over here that don't want to talk about that. That's because they are siding too much with these giant corporations. And that is how FDR won 4 terms as the president and literally got Democratic majorities to the point where he got to appoint 8 Supreme Court justices. That doesn't happen by accident. You can't just stumble into being FDR 2.0. You actually need to stand up for what you are promising with your campaign.
That's exactly right. And so much so they changed the rules of the game, being as we know, because of FDR. He absolutely, the President FDR definitely knew how to wield power, and he knew how to stand up to his own party. And that is something that is sorely missing. I mean, you are treated like an outcast these days if you buck up against your own party. And that is why I believe that the neoliberal wing comes so hard at freedom fighting progressives, because I'm coming to note now that there's a difference between regular progressives and freedom fighting progressives. A lot is lacking right now. And the wild thing is that Democrats are raising more money right now than Republicans are. Right now in Georgia, Democratic Senator Ralph Warnock raised more than 26 million in the third quarter of the year. Walker said he raised 12 million. So we're coming to find out that money might not be able to buy you all the love that you need. Walker is being outspent. And this is not an incident on indictment rather, on Senator Warnock, but more so an indictment on establishment leadership such as Senator Chuck Schumer. Instead of Senate, or not just the Senate, but instead of neoliberal Democrats spending a lot of time and money to defeat progressives in primaries, maybe, just maybe, they should have spent some of that money and some of that time and some of that attention on the great state of Georgia to ensure that Senator Warnock, who, by the way, is a great senator, so that he would not be in the situation that he is in right now. How about that? Instead of them spending so much time and money and effort to stop progressive Democrats, maybe that point that Ben raised with them spending money to help the craziest side of the right wing become the persons to run in the general against Democrats. Maybe if they wasn't wasting that kind of money, they could have invested time and treasure and talent in helping people like Reverend Senator Warnock. How about that, Ben? I'm over it. I'm just,
most
the more
definitely.
I think about it, the hotter I get, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, if we think about all the Senate races that are coming up, I bet most people would be able to name John Fetterman, and some people would be able to name Raphael Warnock. But what about all the other Senate campaigns across the country? I mean, seriously, like if you're president of the United States of America, you got Air Force One, right? You should be visiting every state in the country, all over the place, right? We're not even talking, this isn't FDR's like years, this isn't 1950. We can travel all over the place that we want. You could be on, TikTok, you could be on Twitter, you could be everywhere. And if Joe Biden doesn't have the energy for it, he's got plenty of staff that would be able to go all over the place. And so does Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. They've got plenty of staff to do this, to actually be talking to people, to actually be pushing these issues. I mean, seriously, it's not that hard to stir people up and get people excited. But for whatever reason, it seems like the Democrats want to tinker with policies instead of like rallying people and getting people excited.
Yeah, that's it. So, and Dems need to get their messaging right, and they need to set their priorities. And Ben, I totally agree. Gas up the jet. Several times you could have gassed up that jet, or as you laid out, gassed up TikTok or something. But get out there among the people. Let's put up this headline: fearing a new shellacking. Democrats rush for economic message. Too little, too late. In the final stretch before the 2022 midterm elections, some Democrats are pushing for a new message that acknowledges the pain of rising prices. Are you kidding me? That should have been the message at the fore. Instead of treating the issue of abortion as if it was going to be the silver bullet, it is a part of a much larger rallying cry in this country, and abortion, access to it, which is part of a woman's reproductive health, no doubt. Also, access to abortion is also a part of an economic stream in this country. It's a pocketbook issue in this country. But the Democrats, the neoliberal Democrats, they didn't see it that way. They just said, wow, if we just keep pushing on abortion, baby, that's gonna do it. Meanwhile, back in the hood where people are misunderstood, whether they rural hoods, urban hoods, or suburban hoods, people are still trying to figure out how to pay for gas, eggs, butter, yeah, you name it. Pay for their rent, yeah, their mortgage, all of the things that people need to live a good life. But Democrats missed it. And now as the time ticks on, we are almost at November the 8th, and they are just not getting a clue. Time to figure it out, Chuck. Time to figure it out. Human rights are at stake There's a lot on the line because these right wingers are extreme. Neo-fascism is a threat to our representative democracy, and it snuffs it out very quickly, much quicker than neoliberalism. So we got to fight neo-fascism with all our might. Chuck, we need some help on that. All right. Now, back to the Progressive Caucus. Now, earlier this week, I talked about the Progressive Caucus and this letter that they sent and all of the venom that they received after they put this letter out, so much so that Congresswoman Jayapal, who is the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, had to backtrack. The letter, obviously, was written a little earlier this year. For some reason, it did not go out in June or July. It went out just recently, and the neoliberals could not wait to pounce on the Congressional Progressive Caucus. And for all of that heat that they received about, and everything that you're doing, President Biden, because they lauded everything, all the stuff that you're doing, we're for it. We voted for all of the funding that we have passed heretofore to go to our sisters and brothers and our family and friends in the Ukraine. We want a path to diplomacy, though, along with that. All of the hell that they caused, so much so they had to retract the letter. And lo and behold, President Obama pretty much articulated the same thing that the Congressional Progressive Caucus did. Let's take a look at this headline, shall we? Obama already said some of what the Progressive Caucus got slammed for about the Ukraine. So on Monday, 30 members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, all Democrats, released a letter to President Joe Biden about the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. They just want to put a finer point on democracy, that's all. And here's what the letter said in part. Given the destruction created by this war for Ukraine and the world, as well as the risk of catastrophic escalation, we also believe it is in the interest of Ukraine, the United States, and the world to avoid a prolonged conflict. For this reason, we urge you to pair the military and economic support the United States has provided to Ukraine with a proactive diplomatic push, redoubling efforts to seek a realistic framework for a ceasefire. Wasn't nothing wrong with that. What was wrong with that? Nothing was wrong with that. Now here's what Cole Pink, my dear Benjamin, had to say about the retraction of the letter.
Never thought I would be in a position to see how the call for diplomacy is treated as heresy, as treacherous, as giving in to Putin, as not supporting Ukraine. It's just amazing that they are so fearful of any dissent within the Democratic Party. And I probably shouldn't even use that word dissent, because that letter, if you read that letter, that was the mildest of letters. It started out with all kinds of praise for Biden, how great he's been, how Congress has been so supportive, giving military aid. And then it merely said, we should pair that with proactive diplomacy. That's all it said.
We should pair that with proactive diplomacy. That is the right thing to do, as in the correct thing to do, as in the humanitarian thing to do, as in the let's avoid WW3 at all costs. That's what that was about. And so now we have an interview came out that on Pod Save America, the interview with President Barack Obama. And he was asked about the crisis in the Ukraine, how Americans are very supportive of our efforts to help our sisters and brothers and our family and friends in Ukraine. And also that people are fearful that this will continue to go on, and fearful that it will escalate to something more deadly. And this is what the president had to say. I think what the Ukrainian people have accomplished is extraordinary. We do, however, have to be clear and honest with them about what we can and cannot do. And there are lines that we have to determine internally, the US, NATO, and others, that take into account the risk of tipping into a Russian Russia-US NATO conflict as opposed to a Russia-Ukraine conflict. Now, that's what President Obama said. And what he is saying is absolutely correct. It is absolutely reasonable to say, first of all, we're gonna lift up the Ukrainian people. And then secondly, though, we gotta do some soul searching here. And we gotta make it crystal clear about what we can and cannot do. We must make it crystal clear about what these alliances can and cannot do. And we must be crystal clear as to not move this from a Ukrainian-Russian battle to one that is worldwide. Now, that is what the former president said. Is it reasonable? You damn right it's reasonable. Let's go on. The president also had this to say. Probably the thing that I'm concerned about, and this is President Obama, and I'm concerned about the same damn thing. This is what the president said. Probably the thing that I'm most concerned about is that lines of communications between the White House and the Kremlin are probably as weak as they have been in a very long time. Even in some of the lowest points of the Cold War, there was still a sense of the ability to pick up the phone and work through diplomatic channels to send clear signals. And a lot of that is broken down. And I don't think it's the fault of the administration. So the president is saying, at the worst moments during the height of the Cold War, folks could still pick up the phone and talk to each other. You would think that you would want two superpowers to talk to one another. You would think that you would want two powers who have nuclear weapons to be able to tamp it down, baby. Tamp it down and to be able to talk to one another. The president went on to say, hey, I don't think it's our administration. I think it has a lot to do with Putin, but we need to work on this. And then the president said this. I think that we're now dealing with a type of Russian regime that is actually even more centralized, even more isolated and closed off. I think Russian President Vladimir Putin has consolidated decision-making to a degree that we haven't seen even during the Soviet era, and I think creates some dangers. And us finding ways in which some of that communication can be reestablished, I think is important. President Barack Obama laying it down, and everything he said in this case is not only reasonable from a geopolitical perspective, it is reasonable and righteous from a human perspective. Like, let's save humanity perspective. Ben, jump in real quick. I know we're almost out of time for this block, but your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, really the most frustrating part about this is where the business interests lie. Because fundamentally, if you look at the business press right now, they're celebrating, they're ecstatic. They want this war to last as long as possible because they're making huge profits in combination with the price gouging that this, Ukraine war that they're using as an excuse for price gouging. There's also the reality that the higher the cost of living is in Europe, right, with gas prices and things like that the way they are, the more manufacturing is moving from European countries to the United States. And so fundamentally, the business press and the business interests want this to be a prolonged war. They don't want peace, they don't want safety, they want instability. And if you look at a report that The Intercept had actually a few days ago, they pointed out that the CIA thought that Russia would completely take over Ukraine very shortly, and that they would have a long-term counterinsurgency operation within Ukraine. And so fundamentally, what is the business interest in all of this? It seems like business interests fundamentally just wanted an incredibly long, deadly conflict in Ukraine and not peace.
Yeah, and funding that war machine, all of the folks who make billions of dollars on war. So Ben, absolutely. I want to draw a voice in as we wrap this segment up from the past, and that's President Eisenhower. Let's put up what the president said about this kind of stuff. He said, every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. This world in arms is not spending money alone. Amen, President Eisenhower. We are resurrecting those comments. Amen. Oh, Ben, we about to have some fun. Snoop Dogg, full-time blunt roller. Now, I don't know if Snoop hiring for this, Ben, but that might be something I might want to apply for, okay? Full-time. Now, I ain't never rolled one, but I can practice. I can go ahead and get me some lessons. So this, Snoop Dogg has a full-time blunt roller. You heard me right. It is a full-time job. The individual that is doing this job for Snoop is estimated to have rolled over 450,000 joints for the dog, for Snoop. All right, why does this matter? UberFact put this out. Let's take a look at this. Snoop Dogg employs a full-time blunt roller who makes between $40,000 and $50,000 a year. Now, she is estimated again to have rolled about 450,000 blunts for Snoop Dogg, and Snoop Dogg had the best. Snoop had the best response ever. Here it is: inflation. Their salary went up. Amen, Snoop. Amen. Now, Snoop hired this professional blunt roller for their speed. Obviously, she must be fast, but the real speed here is the growing support of marijuana, the growing support for marijuana and the legalization of it nationally. Let's put up this graphic, Ben, before you jump in here. And we see the change there. We are at 68% in 2020, changing it really, really fast. I mean, it was not, we're going in the right direction. People want to see marijuana or cannabis legalized in the United States. Ben, what say you about Snoop Doggy Dogg?
I mean, I think it's really awesome. I mean, I don't know where they are. Like, if they're in the Los Angeles area, I feel like even $50,000 might not be enough because we all know how the housing market is there. But no, like in all seriousness, like living in a state, Minnesota, where the Republicans accidentally legalized marijuana here, at least edibles. It's just really, really wild to see where we are as a country. And it's really frustrating that Joe Biden made that announcement like a couple weeks ago about potentially rescheduling or descheduling. But he should just deschedule it with an executive order. He totally has the power to do that. And it would literally ease the burden on so many people, because a lot of people get the mindset of like, oh, this is just like an issue for like teenagers or whatever. Nobody really gets arrested for this. That's not true. There are literally like hundreds of thousands of people that are in the prison system because of marijuana possession and sales. And fundamentally, those people need to go free, and we need to end this system that we have right now, because the former Nixon administration officials very publicly admitted that the whole purpose of the war on drugs was to criminalize the existence of Black and brown folks across the country.
That's exactly right, and their mission has been working ever since to the detriment of many individuals, their families, and their communities. But we're on to something, Snoop. But let us know if you're hiring, baby. Let us know. We'll be right back.
Indisputable has been named the fastest growing news TV show in the United States of America, compared to all shows on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and roughly 30 others. What do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable. Donald Trump radicalized citizens. He's the chief terrorist. Republicans still want you to think that critical race theory is the greatest evil that can happen in K-12 education. It's not even taught. I guarantee you this, David. If he would have taken a knee during the national anthem to bring awareness to the need for more money for cancer research in America, he would not have had that response. It was the fact that he took a knee for Black folk and brown folk. You rather pick the voters because you're scared of the voters picking the politicians. It frightens you. But we coming. When you are in a privileged position, equality looks like oppression to you. The Karenicity runs deep in this one. We provide a mirror for reflection and a mirror for correction. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Let's put up the graphic of this Karen in peak performance. Boom. They want anarchy so they can start creating their own rules.
Can you share with me some examples?
When they were running around during the terrorist attack on January 6th saying, hang Mike Pence. So those are the people I'm talking about. That's a problem, correct? You work for Mike Pence, stand up for the guy. Do not allow the ideology of politics to evaporate the humanity that still exists inside of you. They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, so I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reformed in this country, so I won't stop. And you won't stop either.
This is where it all began for many elected progressive leaders. The Young Turks was one of the few media outlets to cover the races of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, Rashida Tlaib, and many, many more. We know a great majority of the country is actually progressive, and TYT is here to amplify these issues so that we can have better policies that a majority of the country actually supports. We want to drive positive change, and then we've been doing that for 20 years here. That's why we're launching Canvas 2022, a campaign to get out the vote and amplify progressive candidates, the progressive agenda, and their primary races. The midterm elections are fast approaching, and we know mainstream media won't cover progressive voices, but because the TYT audience is too strong, we can make a difference in the midterm elections to help progressives get elected and make sure our priorities are heard. Support our mission to drive positive change. Visit tyt.com/canvas2022.
Hello, beloveds. I have a big announcement. I'm launching a new daily 1-hour show with the Young Turks called Unbossed with Nina Turner, starting October 17th. We are going to be taking on corruption in all of its forms, whether it's big money, big pharma, the injustice system, the establishment of both parties. All that we love is on the line. They keep coming for the people, not serving the people. Now we're coming for them. Anytime anyone, anywhere tries to take power from the people, that is where we will be together on Unbossed. And not only are we gonna take on these people, we're also gonna have a little joy while we fight. What is life without having some joy? The channel's already up, so go subscribe now, yes, right now at youtube.com/unbossedTYT. Welcome back to Unbossed. I don't know why I can't get that blunt roller off my mind. I am going to be thinking about this all weekend. Let's see what our TYT members have to say. Biden favor corn pops. Biden flavor corn pop. Okay, this is a name from one of our TYT members. I have never seen Chuck Schumer talk to anybody without glass half down, or without his glasses half down his nose before. That's what I can't believe, LOL. Thank you, Biden flavor corn pop. You stumped me with that name. That's pretty clever. I like it a lot. So that's one of our TYT members. And on Twitch, we have Happy Kitten says love. Sending that love back to you, Happy Kitten. And for our super chat, Diamond says, Nina, I love it when you've got passion in your voice. Thank you, Diamond. I am going to try to carry that passion as deeply and as far as I can. We appreciate all of you for your support of TYT. Thank you. We could not do what we do without you. This is epic. We got the one and only Gary Chambers with us. Gary, how you doing, darling?
I am good, sister. It's good to be with you.
Oh, it's so good to be with you. The last we saw one another, you were right here in the great state known as Ohio, in the 11th congressional district, stumping for your dear sister. And you know I love you and appreciate you for that. You go to where the fire is, and we were damn sure in some fire on that campaign.
No doubt about it. I pick the right side every time.
Every time picking the right side, and I am on the right side in this. And hopefully the people of the great state of Louisiana will understand that and vote for you, elect you to be the next senator of that great state. So you are a candidate for the US Senate right now. In your state, you've run for Congress. In 2012, you founded the Rogue Collection, which is a Black-owned magazine that focuses on sharing a collection of views with one goal in mind, and that is to enlighten people. In 2016, you've always been a community advocate, but in 2016, you became a very outspoken civil rights advocate in the North Baton Rouge area, and you led protests against the killing of Sterling, how people forget, and you served as a spokesperson for the Sterling family. There's several people in this race, but you are running against the incumbent, and that is Republican Senator John Kennedy. So you arrived on the national scene. I mean, the people in your community, they know exactly who you are. You're not new to this, you true to this, but you kind of just rocket launched onto the national scene when you went off on the school board. Let us play this and your reaction after.
Sitting over there shopping while we talking about Robert E. Lee. This is a picture of you shopping while we talking about racism and history in this country. Only white members of this board got up while we were up here talking too, because you don't give a damn, and it's clear. But I'm gonna tell you what the slaves, my ancestors, said about Robert E. Lee, since you don't know history, sister. Let me tell you that they said when he got the plantation, after he got off the field where 27,000 people died at Gettysburg, Connie, Robert E. Lee was a brutal slave master. Not only did when he whooped the slaves, he said, lay it on them hard. Don't give a damn, and you should resign. You should have resigned 2 years ago when you choked a white man in his house. You should have resigned 2 weeks ago when you got on TV and said foolishness. And you should walk out of here and resign and never come back, because you are the example of racism in this community. Now, when do we as Baton Rouge stop being in 1856? If you want to name the building after somebody, how about PBS Pinchback, the first black governor of the state of Louisiana, when he was governor during Reconstruction? You want another name? Oscar Dunn, who was the lieutenant governor of the state of Louisiana in the 1860s, that gave the right for Darius Landis and Don Collins and Evelyn Ware Jackson and Tremel Howard to get here. You want to name it after somebody from Reconstruction? Name it after the people who fought for abolition of slavery. If you want to name it after somebody, honor the right people.
Ooh, hot. I'm still feeling that smoke, and I would not have wanted to be Connie. Paige and Connie. So again, this video launched you onto the national stage. That passion and that truth telling is exactly what is needed in today's politics, particularly in that Congress. Tell us what motivated you? Well, I already know what motivated you to do that, but do you see yourself bringing that same kind of smoke and heat to the Congress?
For every Connie, for every Marjorie Taylor Greene or whatever there is, there's a moment in history where somebody has to confront that. I'm never going to be afraid to be who I am or speak truth to power, whether it be in the halls of the US Senate or at a school board meeting.
Now, activists turn politician. Why politics as the vehicle? What fuels you?
I think when you look at the mechanisms to actually be able to solve a lot of the problems that we talk about in advocacy, the tool is politics, right? It's not that we seek position or title or any of that. It is that for every injustice that we see, for every inequity that we see, for everything that we are advocating for, the halls of Congress, the city council, the state legislature, those are the places where the policies are written that impact us. And so if we really want to be about equity and justice and moving resources into our community, that's where we can do it. Look, in the church takes 10% of the money from some of the people. The government takes 30% of the money from all of the people. And so we think that the government has the resources to be able to address these issues, not philanthropic or social organizations, though they have their place. I think that government is the place that has to figure out the ills of our society. And if you're going to advocate for it, once I start meeting my politician senator, I just recognize I can do a little bit better.
I know that's right. You can do a whole lot better. Now, during this campaign, you've certainly built a reputation for having the most provocative clapbacks and ads. Take a look at this.
My first, you want to let me finish? Well, I'm asking you a question. Let me finish my question.
Now, wait a minute. Now, if I had grabbed somebody's finger or microphone, whatever he grabbed there,
Why you so mad, John, that people ask you why you won't come debate for? Now you scared. Now you so scary. I would talk about your mama just because you said don't talk about your mama at the end. Play the killer.
My opponents, they're entitled to their criticism. They can say, as long as they don't talk about my mom.
But I'm going to talk about the fact that you don't come to these debates because you're scared to talk about the fact that the state ranks number 50 and you've been in public office almost as long as I've been alive. And you talk a lot on Fox News, but you seem to be a coward when you start talking to people in Louisiana. Go and let them people on Fox show that. Now, if I had grabbed the camera, it'd be all over the internet if I had grabbed something from somebody. But you know, white man get to talk about his people too. Who your people, John?
My first job is to vote like how my people would want me to vote.
You know some of your people gonna vote for me too, huh?
Indeed, some of his people are gonna vote for you. John, who your people? Some of your people gonna vote for me. He said don't talk about his mama, Gary. You know, that's how we feel about our mamas, but every now and then I was waiting on you to go dozens. I almost went.
I was about to go your mama
dozens on some fools on Twitter, but I pulled myself back. Go ahead.
Sometimes I do tell them your mama.
Your mama. I love it because sometimes folks come at you in the craziest ways and they think we just supposed to take this stuff. But I love the passion that you bring and the love that you have for the people of Louisiana, which I am sure is the driving force for your run.
For me, when I look at Louisiana, I see the hope in our people, the promise of our future. I recognize that we have challenges, but I think that we are mightier than our challenges. But the leaders that we have failed us. We rank number 50 in the nation, number 48 in healthcare, 48 in education, 46 in healthcare, 47 in opportunity, 49 in environmental quality, and 50 in crime. And I think we rank 50 in crime because we rank 47 in opportunity. And these have been our statistics for as long as I've been alive. Though John Kennedy is a first-term U.S. Senator, he was the Secretary of the Treasury before that. He was our state treasurer before that. And then he was someone seeking office since 1991, right? This is not a man who is new to politics, but he is also not new to failing the people of this state. And so somebody has to challenge him. And though he spends a lot of time on Fox News with one-liners and rhetoric, he has not done a good job representing the people of this great state.
And should be challenged, and I'm so glad that you are challenging him. How do people find, where do they find, how can they get to you to help your campaign?
You can go to chambersforlouisiana.com. That's the fastest way to make a contribution. Find out about the policies that we support. You can also take action, sign up to volunteer. We'll be doing phone banking over the next few days. Early voting has started. So if you're in Louisiana or you know people in Louisiana, contact those people and tell them that they have till November 1st at 6 o'clock to early vote. We want to run up the score in early voting. And then on election day, we need as many resources as possible. So whatever you can do to share our content at Gary Chambers Jr. on all social media platforms, and then make contributions. That $5 goes farther than you think it does. $5 pays for a sign, $5 pays for a t-shirt, $5 pays for a push card. That gives us the ability to connect with people and get the message out there. John Kennedy is polling at 51% and he has spent $15 million. If we keep him under 50, we get to a runoff and it's a whole new ball game system.
There it is, at Gary Chambers Jr. on all platforms. Please support Gary in his pursuit to become the next United States Senator from the great state of Louisiana. I guarantee you there will not be anybody who walked the halls of Congress quite like my brother, Gary Chambers. Gary, all the best to you. So much luck and love, and we are lifting you up. Go ahead and do what you do.
Thank you, my sister. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you as well. And for our Jawbone today, it's coming from another one of my brothers in this fight, in this righteous fight for justice. And that is none other than Michael Render, AKA Killer Mike. And this is the quote that I've chosen for the Jawbone today. Plot, plan, organize, strategize, and mobilize. Yes, that is what all of us must do. That is coming from Michael Render, AKA Killer Mike. We must plot, plan, strategize, and organize. We must be the change that we want to see in this world. In order to be that, in order to do that, we have to put some sweat equity on this thing. So what are you waiting for? Get in there. Plot, plan, strategize, and organize. Many hands make for light work. Sending you so much love on this Friday afternoon. You know exactly what I want you to do. I want you to keep the faith, but more importantly, keep the fight. Until next time.